Hello, everyone, and thank you for being with me today. My guest is Nicole Ramer, and she is the founder and owner of Organized Haven. She is a professional senior move manager in the state of Florida and has been doing moves for many, many years, like over a decade. Nicole, I'm so happy to have you here today. Please tell us about yourself and how you started in the senior move industry.
Thank you, Janet, so much. I'm very glad to be here finally. We've had this scheduled a couple times, and I'm so glad that in February, early in the month, we have made it happen. So, yeah, I am a senior home coach and Polk County, Florida's only certified professional organizer and certified senior move manager. So I founded Organized Haven 12 years ago this April as a professional organizing company. And I did this after needing many who might be watching this video can relate with being an organized person and leading an organized life. But then there are transitions that happen to us in life, whether we're, leaving home for the first time or getting married, having a child, getting your first home, all the way through the older adult years of needing to downsize their life's collections and maybe move to senior living, independent, assisted living, or even memory care. So as I started this company after getting myself through the transition of becoming a mom for the first time, working very long hours a long way from home, I realized that there's other people that are going through those transitions and maybe I can help them with that. So I started with the intention of helping people through all of life's transitions. And so that was in 13. I had a 1-year-old son at the time. So it really is my personal life that led me to this industry and to helping people organize their space, enjoy their homes. And many of my clients were older adults. They were seniors. They had collected a lifetime of things. And the project that they faced in their existing home was so overwhelming that they just couldn't see themselves being able to move. So senior living communities started reaching out and asked for my help, helping their seniors through that downsizing process that they thought would take years. So that was 3 years into my organizing business that I added senior move management services. My husband joined me at the time. He was on a temporary layoff with his themed construction company. If I wasn't in a completely different industry, he certainly was, because he was building artificial waterfalls and working with concrete and rebar and paint and very creative work. And so he figured this out, senior move management, and his boss called him back 3 months later and said, "Okay, we've got work again." And he said, "Well, okay, I'm so sorry, but I work with my wife now." So he and
Okay, great.
yeah. So 9 years in, as of last month, we've been working with each other full time. And that can create a whole nother podcast episode. Maybe we'll set up later. Yeah. So 5 years after adding senior move management services, we took a big leap and added fully licensed and insured moving services. So we are one of 1 to 3% of senior move managers who basically got their own trucks, hired their own movers, and became full service moving companies. And so I'm excited to see how NASM will continue to grow, the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. And yeah, so we do full service downsizing and moves mainly for older adults. I would say 95% of our clients are seniors and their families, and it's a really overwhelming experience. We'll talk about that obviously on this call. I am also the executive director of Safe Moves for Seniors, which is a nonprofit here in Lakeland. We serve the Polk County market, but we're growing as a national company. And as a nonprofit, we move financially disadvantaged seniors for free. So at no cost to them, we're partnering with companies like Organized Haven and other moving and discard and donate companies to move a senior to a safer home
Mhm.
and do so at no cost.
Well, that's a wonderful service. Yeah, that's a wonderful service, and I'm sure that there is a lot of demand for your services in the state of Florida.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
it's surprising you said that you're the only certified senior move manager in the state of Florida.
No, 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 just here in Polk County. So the
Okay, and
Lakeland, the Lakeland, Florida area.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That surprised me. Nicole, tell me how the senior move management industry has changed over the last 5 years as we have so many baby boomers turning 65 and then people who were older already and perhaps transitioning from their home to either a different home or a senior living
Community.
facility
Hmm.
community.
Community. Yeah. Sure. I think it's seen incredible growth. So, yeah, I've been serving this market and this need for 12 years, but I think, yeah, even in the past 5 years, it's seen incredible growth. Frankly, more families are recognizing the complexity of helping their loved ones transition to a new phase of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 5 years ago, senior move management was still fairly niche and new. Senior move managers have been around for over 25 years, but the community as a whole really doesn't know anything about it. They're used to just calling a traditional moving company when they need to move, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe calling the realtor. That's usually their first step because they say, well, in order to move, I have to sell my house. And so I think in the last decade, the senior move manager has been the last one called. And that just is after a lot of chaos that maybe could have been avoided otherwise. So, but I think today it's becoming more mainstream because there's a rising awareness of not just the logistical challenges of downsizing, but also the emotional challenges of downsizing. There's also a surge right now in services that combine professional organizing with sustainability. So there's everything from eco-friendly packing materials to donation programs and even estate sales designed to reduce waste. Also, the demand for virtual consultations and hybrid services has grown significantly, especially after the pandemic shifted how we connect with clients. So, I do a lot of virtual consultations, a lot of Zoom calls and Google Meet calls with families all over the US and beyond so that everyone is in the know as to the details of the transition.
And how do you manage that when you have a client that lives out of state?
Well, sometimes we're all meeting virtually. It could be me here in my office, the senior in his or her home, and the adult daughter. It usually is the adult daughter. Could be a son, it could even be a niece or a nephew or a granddaughter. And so in that kind of environment, it could be three, four, or five of us on a Zoom call. But I've also done a lot of in-person consultations with the older adult who is not quite computer savvy, but daughter is in California. And so I'll do a physical walkthrough. Sometimes, the family hasn't even seen the space in years and doesn't know if there's like a significant amount of disorganization or things that need to be sifted and sorted through. That walkthrough is pretty telling sometimes, or it might have already been inspired by a virtual meeting because seniors all the time are actually connecting online again since the shift from the pandemic.
And you just mentioned caregivers that may not have been in the home for who knows, many years. When someone does have a cluttered environment, how does that make your work different or more challenging?
What I didn't mention is I'm a chronic disorganization specialist. I have seeked out education and resources to help those types of homeowners. It has a huge impact on a senior's ability to age in place safely. It has a huge impact on, um, again, how they see themselves even getting through it to move to a safer residence. And it's more common than you think. I help people everywhere from already organized and just wanting a well managed move and an organized new space to those who are on the clutter hoarding scale. And the highest level is a 5, and those projects really require additional support like therapists and biohazard companies, but for the most part, it's just clutter. It's just things that have covered all of the flat surface areas of a home, not just the dining, the huge dining table, but also the end table that's right beside their chair that they basically live in and even sleep in because it's just more convenient and it's easy, it's less steps to the kitchen and to the bathroom or to the front door. And so many of my seniors even have fancy adjustable beds but they're covered in stuff. Maybe it's clothes, maybe it's papers, photos where they started an organizing project and just never finished it. And so it's physical, it's very emotional. And these seniors or even younger people, they avoid calling because they are afraid of judgment. And it's just not mainstream for them to know that, okay, well, sure, I might need to hire someone to do my taxes, maybe even clean my house, but it's scary for them to hire a professional organizer or a downsizing specialist. They don't want to open their door to this.
Right. So you really are offering a very unique set of services because not only are you helping them organize their belongings and move them, but then you're also helping them reduce the amount and number of belongings in order to ensure that where they're transitioning to is going to be a safer space from the beginning.
Right. And that's a challenge too, because it's not just physical and emotional, but we come in with guidance and recommendations, the space plan, everything from the furniture and where it's going to go if they are moving to what is going to fit in their new closets, their kitchen cabinets, their bathroom cabinets. Some of our clients have drawers and cabinets galore in these spaces, but where they're moving to might have no drawers at all. And so where they want to bring all 8 curling hairbrushes, but they only use 1 or 2, their natural instinct is just pack it all up. I hear a lot, okay, well just bring it all and I'll figure it out this downsizing thing on the other end. We'll get rid of the stuff after. And
Yeah.
no, that's just not a good idea. I call it packing with the unpack in mind. And it's important that you do that and you consider the new space, even if you're just so used to moving over the past decades and just bringing everything with you. I mean, some of these people have stacks of boxes in their garage. They don't even know what's in them. And they've had to buy all new because they never got through it because there's just not enough space for it. So it takes a fair amount of guidance and kind of hand holding sometimes to make the right decisions, but also allow them to maintain their dignity and autonomy for making their own decisions with that guidance.
Do you calculate how their belongings are going to fit in the new place? And then also what needs to go? Do you use technology or is it from your own experience?
We do. We use a lot of technology. One piece of technology that we use is 3D space planning. So, what we're doing is measuring their furniture and we're measuring their new space. Here in Central Florida, I've measured a lot of the senior living community apartments, and we have record of the PDF file that tells you the square footage. I always say square footage is just a number. You can kind of guesstimate when you look at that floor plan what's going to fit in the living room and the bedroom, the office, or what one of my communities calls the anything room, because some will make that the second bedroom. They say when the grandkids come over. The unfortunate truth, though, is that the grandkids will come over, but maybe it's just once a year. And when they do, they aren't going to sleep there in the senior living community. They usually want their own private hotel room, so I always try to get them to make a choice that's for them and how they want to use that space every day instead of just once every blue moon. And so measuring the furniture and measuring the space allows us to really provide a guarantee as to what's going to fit and how it will look. Sometimes that's not enough and the technology doesn't work, and we literally bring our client to their new apartment and we put blue painter's tape on the floor so they can see it. They're there, they're standing there, they can kind of envision how they'll walk around and access the space. So my seniors who have said, Nicole, I'm a retired engineer and I know how to use AutoCAD. I'm just going to do this space planning myself. And so then they give us this space plan and we still just get the sense that it's not going to work. So we'll recommend going again, to the community and showing them physically what that huge dining room table is going to look like in the great room next to the couch, and how the dining chair is not going to even have space to move out from the table. It's going to be butt to butt with that sofa. And so the client who I'm thinking of in particular, we've lost him since. This was many years ago, but he said, okay, Carrie, this was my senior move manager at the time. Carrie, I see what you mean. Just go ahead and do the space plan. You have my permission.
It's so great when people just let you do your job, the job you know how to do
Yeah,
better
well,
than anyone
again,
else.
right. And they say, well, I've moved 20 times in the past 30 or 40 years, and that's all good and all, but this is a different move. Um, Sometimes it just really is beyond their capability because of the stress that they're under. Relocation stress syndrome is real, and it can be long term.
Tell me, Nicole, well, I've never heard of a space planner tool. Is this something that usually only professional organizers use, or do other moving companies also offer this service to their clients?
I think in general, traditional moving companies do not offer
No.
this service. I told you that 1 to 3% of senior move managers have added their own licensed moving services, but also traditional moving companies are seeing that this is a real problem and trying to serve this market. And so I may be wrong. All I know is really my local market, but there are moving companies also that are joining NASM and saying they offer these services. Um, but it really takes a dedicated senior move manager on the team who is going to be able to properly guide their client from point A to point Z, I'll say, because there's so many different steps, and you can't count on a strong, probably kind and friendly, someone who's going to treat you like grandma. You can't count on that person to show up on move day and just make magic happen, you know?
Yeah, so tell
So
me a little bit about that. Tell me about the value of hiring a senior move manager like yourself versus a moving company.
yeah, well, the value is you have someone on your side that is going to be helping you from maybe 3 months prior to your move make good decisions. It's not just the space planning, but it's sorting all of those things and figuring out what is best to keep. I always recommend keeping only those things that you use every day, every week, every month, or every year. Because if you're keeping that pair of pants or this many pants that fit on a hanger in the closet for that one day chance that you'll fit into them again, it's stopping you from using that space wisely with the things that fit you now and that you like wearing, that you like looking into the mirror and seeing. It gives you that confidence and isn't going to overwhelm your space. So joining NASM was the best thing that I did to really understand everything that comes before, during, and after a move for a senior. So I highly recommend to anybody that's offering move management services to take it seriously and join the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. I joined NAPO first, the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, and it was only months after that that I found NASM. I thought I invented this senior move management thing, and
Yeah.
little did I know that there's 1,000 NASM members doing this across the country. So we have colleagues that we can rely on, we can support, that we can call. We meet all the time. We see each other every year at conferences. And so we know the resources that are available. We know about things such as chronic disorganization or hoarding tendencies and how to work through that. My traditional movers here in Central Florida, they're great, they're kind, they are strong, and they know how to move some boxes and some furniture and get a space set up. But I mean, not really if they haven't made sure that it's going to fit first. So that's the
Right.
difference. We're making sure as senior move managers that we're not just saying yes ma'am to everything and putting it all on the truck only to find out that we actually can't empty the truck. And now we have to add more stress to our client and their transition by telling them then after it's too late that it looks like you should have downsized and now you have to do that.
Do you find that senior living communities will propose that someone uses a certified senior move manager in order to avoid a situation like this? Because I imagine that they do not want their apartments just being overwhelmed with furniture, because that's going to create a fall hazard for the person, which is then going to create a problem for them.
Correct. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Again, maybe in the last 5 years, more and more, these senior living communities are seeing the value and sharing the value and making sure that we are on their list of recommended vendors. I think that when they aren't, maybe they're not focused on the value of that resettle and that senior's well-being, but instead they're focusing on the cost and how it's different. I mean, when you're performing a traditional move and that's the only service you're providing your client, we talked about this the other day, Janet, the cost for a move. And I mean, it's so far ranging because it depends on the square footage, the density of the space, the touch level of the client. At least that's how I provide my quotes. Um, but the cost for a traditional move, let's just give an example of $1,400 if it's a local move, could be much less, it could be much more, again, depending on all of those factors and how it was organized or not. Whereas a completely done for you move for someone who is taking advantage of the professional organizing and sorting and decluttering to the space planning, the packing with the unpack in mind, the discarding of everything that shouldn't be packed for their new home, the move itself, the unpacking and the resettle, go as far as making the beds, hanging the pictures, mounting the TVs, mounting curtain rods and the curtains, decorating the new space, literally leaving not one box to unpack and organizing every single square footage and inch of the space. So you can imagine how the cost is different. And so some families, if the budget just isn't there for that, some families are, of course, taking that role. And so I believe in educating those families and providing what we can offer in move management services and delegating the simple tasks that they're able to do so that even lower income families are able to make good decisions and approach the move right. Again, instead of just hiring a traditional mover.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So you said average cost of a local move would be $1,400. Now that's the fee that they're paying you for your senior move management services, not the move itself.
Well, no, I am the mover. So
But let's
if
say
I
if
have a
someone's
family who
not the mover,
calls, okay, right.
can you separate it just so I can understand what is the cost of a professional like you?
Okay, I see. I see what you mean. Yeah, so a completely done for you move. Okay. So if I take the moving piece out and it's just move management support from the planning to the packing, only what will fit, to the unpacking and resettle, maybe it could be around 3,000, 2,500, $3,000 if it's not going to include the move itself. But
Okay.
again, there's so many factors that can change that. How organized is the space or clutter free? How far is the distance between the origin and the destination? And if I'm going to Orlando or to Tampa, I mean, my moving truck can cover the state. So sometimes we're going North Florida, South Florida. And so even if we were just doing the move management piece for that, if they chose us as opposed to somebody else, even in their market, the pricing would be different because of the travel.
Well, to me, that sounds very reasonable to have a professional who really understands working with this population and focusing on reducing the number of things that that person has and then packing it and then also unpacking it and putting up a TV and putting up pictures. I mean, there's huge value in that.
Absolutely. Who doesn't want to walk into their newly finished apartment and not have to unpack a thing? We do wait for them before we hang pictures because we want, excuse me, we want them to make sure that they like where the furniture is placed with a 3D image of where it's all going to go. Once you get it there, you might have a different idea. We might even have a different idea and, do some rearranging. So we want them to take a night with it and make sure. I mean, we'll mount their TV on move day because we've got to make
Yeah.
sure their TV is working on
Right.
move day because they want to turn on the news or whatever they watch that night, and they are not happy if it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Same with their computer. And yeah, so I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
Yes, how valuable your services are just as a certified senior move manager.
yeah,
Take away
yeah.
that moving piece.
Right. And so I like them to kind of sleep on it and make sure they like where the furniture is and that they're a part of the decision-making process on placement of the pictures. So we don't want to put unnecessary holes in the walls. Change their mind later, have us back. I mean, if that's what they ask us to do, it's no problem, so long as there's sufficient time in the day. Because if we're ending a move at 8 p.m., I'm sorry, but we're not hanging pictures that night.
Right.
Ideally, we're finishing the move at 3 or 4 o'clock. So imagine walking into your new space. You just moved that day. It doesn't look like it, except for maybe nothing on the wall. And you can have dinner and relax and go to bed early because you're so exhausted just from watching us work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge
That's
plus.
really valuable. I've moved cross country twice, and I know how stressful that is. And actually, my husband and I are very good about putting the house back together again, including the art on the walls. We usually have it done within 3 weeks. And I know we must be better than most people because when we have friends come over, they're like, "Oh, you just moved. The house looks great."
Well, you probably didn't have a whole lot of clutter to begin with, so that
And
helps.
I tell you, that's the benefit of moving. We've moved 3 times, is that you moving is an opportunity to get rid of things.
Oh my gosh, Janet, so we upsized in space with our last move. This was over 5 years ago. May will be 6 years. It's unbelievable how fast that time flies. But we upsized in space, but I was also having a baby, and I refused to bring all of that stuff here to our new house. And so we had, I think at that time, it was our second max sold online auction with all of the things that I even was successful in having my husband downsize. He's a collector. So imagine certified professional organizer marries collector. It's a lot of fun. And, we're in this downsizing business and we just have access to so much. But he's been collecting
Mm.
antique things and vintage things since he was 16. So it was everywhere. Now we have one antique room, but there are some things that are kind of sneaking their way into the living room and everywhere else as things start to collect. My son, who's 12, little Danny, he's got that gene too. So he's collecting himself.
Some antiques that were gifted to me by my mother in law. And when I had no furniture years ago, it was great, nice, high quality furniture. But now that I have furniture and my tastes are different, and I'm very specific about what I want and what I like, then I didn't want it anymore. So that took a few arguments, but
Sure.
I just got rid of about 80% of it.
Awesome. Good job. Yeah. So
Yeah.
speaking of those arguments and those gifts, it is challenging for a senior to have to let go of all of these things that they have saved for that day that their kids or their grandkids wanted. Could be china, could be baby clothes,
And the issue
could
is
be,
that their grandkids really don't want it.
no,
Because
they don't.
as a therapist that worked in home health, I was the recipient of china. At one point, I had 4 sets of china that I had said yes to. And then I said, what am I going to do with this? And it was very high quality china,
Yeah,
but I
sure.
ended
And
up
probably
gifting it.
beautiful. Well,
Oh,
good.
very
And I,
beautiful.
I
Yeah.
always say, I recommend to the kids, just take it. Just take that overwhelm mom and dad or grandma and grandpa because it is a gift in their eyes. Even if in ours we think, well, I'm not going to use it.
Hmm.
It doesn't fit
It's
in my
not my
space.
style.
Not my style. Yeah, just take it because it's going to make their transition so much easier. They're going to feel good about it. And what happens to it after that is up to you,
Yeah.
the one who now owns it. And, I always say too, a picture, what is the saying? A picture speaks 1,000 words or something like that. So taking a picture of it and letting it go and being able to tell the story of this collection is also very helpful where you can further gift it, downsize it. It might be a whole china set to start with, but maybe to remember mom or grandma, you keep a cup and a saucer, and that sits on your bookcase with your favorite books, and so it can become a memory that doesn't take up a whole lot of space and that doesn't really have to impede on your style.
Yeah. Yeah. Or gifting it to people who need it. Like the people who just took all this furniture I was telling you about, came here from another country and had no furniture. So now here
Hmm.
they received all this high quality, beautiful furniture and were super happy with it, where I was unhappy with it. So,
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah. So, Nicole, tell me, how do you see the senior move management industry growing, evolving with the population, or I should say, the demographic of older adults, where we have 10,000 baby boomers turning
Yeah.
65 every single day up until the year 2030. But then we have Generation X, which is the one I belong to. We will be the next group to age. So we really have a society that's going to continue to age up until the year 2060. How do you see that affecting this industry?
Yeah. Well, it's just going to become more of a need, more and more of a need. It's going to become more mainstream because they too will be transitioning out of family homes. I just visited with someone yesterday who is in a 55 plus community in a manufactured home. She used to live there with her sister. Her and her sister have never been married or had kids. And her sister's in a nursing home now, and she is there alone. And it's her parents' home. So her parents lived there. I don't know for how long. They're actually from New York, the family. So there's no local family here. But there is a growing cultural emphasis on minimalism and decluttering, thanks to popular media and books that highlight it, the joy of letting go. And so, because I think too often adult children are living far away from their parents, that professional help is essential during transitions. We talked about that in the beginning of this. There's rising costs of senior living, so people are downsizing earlier and making more intentional choices about their belongings.
And you also mentioned during our call yesterday that you are getting more calls from seniors who are currently in Florida and want to move out of state to be closer to their adult children. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Uh-huh. This is actually a new thing for me, at least. I'm not sure if this is different for senior move managers in other states, or if COVID had a lot to do with it. I really haven't studied the why, but yeah, more and more these days in the last year or two, we have had seniors here in the Central Florida market moving to Chicago, Georgia, California, places all over the US because they need to be closer to their kids. Even if they can't stand the cold and they're moving to cold
Yeah.
weather, they're doing it because they see themselves aging. They see a need for more assistance or more time with family, certainly become more lonely since COVID, especially early on during the pandemic. And so we have partners that we work with in Florida. We have partners, excuse me, Wheaton Beacons agents specifically, who have provided certification programs for us to make sure that even if we're the ones properly guiding the client, properly downsizing their belongings, and doing all of the packing. Before, seniors would say, well, I don't think it's a good idea for you to pack because it's considered packed by owner for that moving company who's then going to cross state lines. I want my belongings protected in terms of valuation, insurance, whatever you want to call it. It isn't insurance. So Wheaton Beacons and agents across the US provide senior move managers with a partners in packing certification program. So now if we're there guiding our clients and working with them sometimes months at a time and before their move, we're able to do the packing and Wheaton Beacons will insure it and or excuse me, provide that full value protection so that they can feel confident that even if something happens and it breaks in transit, that they are going to be protected.
Well, that's a great resource. Nicole, tell me about people who want to age in place. Since the majority of older adults do want to age in place, but I totally recognize the value of having a professional organizer in order to make that space safer. How do you work with older adults who want to remain in their homes but recognize that the way their home currently looks is really keeping them from being safe?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've seen a shift, and thankfully so, in those who want to downsize earlier. And it has been a goal of mine for many years to reach that older adult who isn't safe in their home and is living amongst clutter and, at risk of many fall hazards and, ending up unfortunately in the hospital, sometimes in long-term rehab. And after adding moving services, I feel like a lot of my local community has forgotten that we are a professional organizing company too, and primarily, in fact. And so I'm trying to get back to that place where my community understands the importance of decluttering and doing it right and making them safe in their existing space. One, so that they maybe can have less hospital trips and less medical emergencies and crises. But two, so that in the event of a crisis, they're ready. It wouldn't take much of a downsize to get them to a new space, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or even just a smaller home in a 55 plus community or a smaller apartment. So our main mission really is to help seniors age in place because of how important it is, because they do want to stay in their homes. They see senior living sometimes as a nursing home when it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
not at
In the
all.
end, too, I think it's like
They see it
they're
as the end.
walking
Yeah.
to their death.
Yeah, it's almost like one more loss. They may have already faced a loss with a spouse or even a child. Oh my gosh, the worst.
Yeah.
So losing their home that they may have lived in for 30, 40, 50 or more years and raised their families in, they see that as just one more loss, as well as all of the things that they've curated over a lifetime. Maybe they've traveled, you know, maybe they have moved from place to place and they've been in the military, for instance, and so they've just traveled for fun and they have collections from all over the world. And so there are resources for culling through all of that, for even providing inventories to the families who are dispersed, regionally, and so that things can be dispersed amongst family, things can be donated to provide resources for people who don't really have the means to buy new furniture and set up their new space. So donation is something I highly recommend. We do a lot of estate selling for interesting things and collections. Always recommend, at the very least, that the low value goods are donated so that the people who truly have a need and don't have the means have access to them, at the very least, at a lower cost. So,
Tell me, and I ask this question selfishly because my mother in law she's a widow. She lives alone. In fact, she lives in Florida, so I may be hiring you. And she is considering moving to a smaller place or some kind of community. And her daughter is helping her. And they're both overwhelmed. They bring up this conversation all of the time about what is she going to do with all her stuff. What is your advice? What are the first things that people in this situation should be thinking about? And then how can they best approach or tackle this
yeah. Well, it's a huge project.
transition?
So tackling is a really good word
Okay.
because it's not just one room or space, but it's usually the whole house, sometimes even the attic, or depending on the state that you're in, the basement. And we've all read the articles, no one wants your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that that really is untrue. I mean, certainly the kids might not want it, their
Right.
own, personal kids, unless they've listened to me and said yes to taking it and then,
Yes. And then discard
doing
it.
with it what they will. Keep it for a little while just in case mom comes over on that note. But, when it comes to decluttering and organizing, we all know also, we've seen the tips to start small and make a plan. So I talk about that all of the time, how important it is to make a plan. I like to get it down on paper or maybe even a big bulletin board. Have a poster board, in every single room and it be front and center to say exactly what this room needs to be used for, exactly what needs to go, doesn't belong in this space, and just try to simplify it. All of these things didn't collect overnight. And it's not going to be a one-day process. It's not going to be smooth and easy. There are going to be roadblocks. If you anticipate those roadblocks and you know what your plan is and you have help, whether it's the daughter or, niece, nephew, friend, neighbor, someone who goes with you to church, so long as it's not someone who is going to judge and who isn't going to make the process even harder. That's why I always recommend hiring a professional for this, because we know the roadblocks, we know what can happen, and we know that the recommendations of the neighbor aren't really probably going to match ours. And so I think that's the best way to start, and to start early. Again, you might think that you've got years before you have to downsize, but one fall can change everything. So make a plan and try to stick to it and utilize the resources in your community to just do a little bit at a time.
Do you see that people are thinking about their transition, but what holds them back is that, well, number one, they don't have a clear idea of where they're going, which this is
Mm,
my mother in law's situation.
yeah,
But number two, they don't know what to do with their stuff. And their stuff is holding them hostage.
yeah, it sure is. It always is easier to know where you're going because then you have that number, the square footage, and you have that, floor plan. So you can start envisioning what's going to fit and you can start there. But you don't really need that to start decluttering and downsizing the contents of your existing space. I think I mentioned it in another question that I like to recommend. I say it all the time to keep the things that you use every day, every week, every month, or every year. If you do that, you don't really need to have anywhere that you're intending to move. I mean, maybe you keep your house completely furnished because you don't want to be living in an empty home and hearing your echo when you walk through it and talk with your loved ones, and that's fine. But there is so much that's in those drawers in that furniture in between that you're not using every day, week, month, or year. Those are the easiest things to let go of, especially if it's just hiding in the back of a closet. I will say though, once you start digging through that closet, you're going to find things that you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this in years. I forgot I had it. Or finally, I've located it. And if you are going to put it to good use, keep it. But these things are going to take time. So you have to give yourself some patience. You have to give yourself the time to go through those memories. Everything our clients touch has a story, and it could be a long one,
Mm,
and that's okay, but write the story down, especially if you're letting it go or gifting it to one of your family members. Gift it with the story so they understand the memory that's behind it, and maybe it can continue to pass through the generations. So again,
yeah.
starting
And
small and then starting with the things that you're not using anymore because you can do that without knowing where you're moving or when you're moving.
yes, what you just said reminded me that you'll going through your things, you actually find things, and it's like going shopping.
Huh?
And in my last move, when I was moving from Colorado to Georgia, I found this necklace that I'm wearing now. My father was a jeweler and he died many years ago. So I wear it every day.
I love
And
that.
I didn't even know I had it until I was unpacked or I was going through my things and I opened all these little boxes that I had in these drawers and I found it. And not only have I been wearing it for years, but one of my best friends was going through cancer treatment. And so I gave it to her for a year.
Oh, wow. How great. Oh, I'm sure he's looking down on you so proud. So
Yeah.
that's such a great personal
Yeah. So you
story.
never
And
know
it
what you're going to find if you go through your stuff.
That's right, exactly. And you will cry. There will be tears when you look through those photographs and find those things that belong to one of your loved ones that have passed. That's okay too. You also have to be willing to be patient with yourself through that process. And if you are going to have a partner, an accountability partner, whether it's a friend or a professional, I mean, especially if it's a friend, just make
Hmm.
sure that that person or that family member is also going to be patient with you and allow you to go through that process and allow you to take the time, whatever time you need. So an adult child who is listening to this, remember to be patient and to just go through that journey with them and not get frustrated because stories are longer and their reasons for wanting to keep something don't really align with your, you know, ideology or your thought process. You don't understand. And that's okay. You don't have to. It is really all about that senior and going through that journey with them and making it easier. It makes it
Yeah,
easier for
well,
everyone involved.
you gave us some great advice. I learned a lot. I didn't know. I mean, I had heard you talk a lot about senior move managers, but I really didn't understand everything that your job entails and your skill set. So I'm really glad that I invited you on because God, everyone could use a senior move manager. And I think my mother-in-law can use one like right now.
I'm happy to help.
So thank you so much,
So I
Nicole.
thank you
And
too,
tell us,
Janet.
how can someone get a hold of you? How can
Well,
they
if
reach you?
you're Yep, you can reach, oh my gosh, you can first of all check out organizedhaven.com. On top of everything else that I like to do, I stay busy writing blog posts. My goal this year is to have one per week. And so I love to educate my community and provide these resources and make it a little easier, whether they're hiring me or not. So organizedhaven.com is chock full of resources. Our phone number is there as well to reach out to me or one of my team members directly. And we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Just do a search for Organized Haven. Whether you're here in Central Florida or you're across the US and beyond, check out both NASM and NAPO. So NASM, again, is the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, right.
And that's nasm.org, NASMM.org. NAPO is the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, and that's napo.net. So I highly encourage you to reach out to those resources. There's a directory there. All you need to do is put in your zip code and find people like me. There's also the ICD, which is the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, and their website, I believe, is Challenging Disorganization.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I will include these links in the show notes once the episode is published. So you don't have to write all of this down because it's going to be in the show notes.
Great. I'll correct it if I was wrong on any of those links. I'll send it
You
to you,
can just
okay?
give me a list and then I'll copy it and paste it.
I think I'll throw in there some books. So any of the book readers out
Great.
there, I'll link to some good books that are helpful.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicole.
You're welcome, Janet. Thank you too. I will see you soon online somewhere. And hey, maybe in